Though we broadcast worldwide, so just so y'all know. Yeah, just let you know. All right, we good. Yeah, what now? I'm gonna add you right now. I'm gonna let her go. I'm gonna add you from my phone. I don't know if you can see us. All right, cool.
Yeah. It's the same.
Can y'all really see her? Or no? All right, cool. Yeah, y'all. Really, the important thing is to hear her. All right, cool. I'm gonna check on this link. All right, cool. So y'all know who Dr. Ma'at? Everybody here knows who Dr. Ma'at is? You heard of her, brother? Yeah, I'm a Raw Squad member. She made that one of the founders of the Mail Trek, right? Or the founder.
Yeah, I founded. Well, I co-founded the company with my family. So I'm one of the co-founders of Ed Anime Productions, and we founded that company to create educational materials for our children. We're no longer going to allow the public school system to educate our children. Malcolm X said only a fool will allow his enemy to educate his children. Carter G. Woodson said that we are the only race who take our most precious possessions, our children, and allow our oppressor to educate our children. So we're no longer going to do that. And so Ed Anime Productions was formed with the intent to educate and edify our children. And so that's what we're doing. We're actually in the process now of developing a system where our people could navigate to and utilize to homeschool their children. So we're in the process right now of building an actual system right now where parents around the world can navigate to that system, enroll their children, where you have, Black men and women, teachers coming in front of our children, virtual videos and everything just for our children. So a homeschooling system is what we are in the process of developing. But in the meantime, we do have a project called Mail Trek, which is dedicated to teaching children authentic African. I don't like saying African American. I just like saying African history. But for those who aren't there yet, we'll say African American history. So that's what we're doing right now with Mail Trek and with Ed Anime Productions.
All right, cool. So yeah, I mean, most of y'all know. So she's gonna be talking about what we talked about. We were going to discuss, or I was going to discuss. We got an actual professional here, someone that's teaching it all every day, and has actually has finished a doctorate. So she had to go through the full research methodology and have an understanding of the scientific method. So I felt like she was the perfect person to teach it. So we covering the scientific method, the definition of a theory in science, and
Yes.
research methodology, right? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. And yes, that's what we're going to cover, and much more. And much more. Before we begin, I'd like to at least acknowledge the ancestors and say all praises to the ancestors. I would like to salute you, Brother Tory, for putting this together, having the vision to put this together. I love the references that you're bringing forth to your group. You told me when you inboxed me on Facebook, you were saying that you guys were reading the book Mayat by Dr. Kilimanjaro. And Dr. Kilimanjaro, yes. Well, let me see. Yep, Mayat, The Guiding Principles of Moral Living. And you were saying that while you were reading this book, you said there were a lot of questions, about research methodology, about the scientific method, and what is a theory versus, what is a scientific theory versus just, I guess, a theory or a hunch or a hypothesis. So I'm glad that you invited me onto the show to talk about this. Again, I just want to reiterate that I'm not one that's just talking about the scientific method. I actually had to go through it. I had to write a dissertation, which is online. I had to write a dissertation, it's 125-page dissertation where I actually had to implement the scientific method. So what I'm explaining is not just theoretical. I actually implemented everything that I'm getting ready to present to you all today. So I would like to thank you, Brother Tory, for bringing me on and allowing me to speak to your group. I think what you guys are doing is wonderful. And where are you based? I believe it's in California, right?
Yeah, San Diego.
Southeast San Diego. We gotta make that clear. We gotta make that clear, sister. My name is Mino Hati.
Peace,
We're from,
peace, brother.
oh no, we're from Southeast San Diego. And that's where the dominant black community is in San Diego. So for those who don't know, wondering, we got black people out here and specifically in Southeast San Diego. So whenever we're talking about the black community in San Diego, Southeast San Diego is where it's at.
Got you. Understood. So you guys are from Southeast San Diego. Okay, I have family in Vallejo, some family in Sacramento, and some family in Hayward, California. So I got some family that actually left Baltimore, Maryland, and moved on out to California. But at any rate, okay.
10 hours away.
You said how? About 2 hours?
10 hours. We like 15 minutes away from Mexico.
Oh, okay, so you guys are further south. You guys are south. Okay, got you. Okay, so I just want to get started with this. I don't want this to be like a thing where I'm lecturing and I'm just, lecturing to you all. I kind of want it to be an interactive sort of session, because I want to kind of pick your minds and see where you are and how you think, and what is your understanding or current understanding of science, the scientific method, and theories. Can anyone, before we get started, define for me what they think research is, like in their definition? Like what do you think research is, and what is the purpose of research? Like, why do we even research? Like, what's the point? Can someone define that for me? Or do you guys just want me to go? Because I can just go, but I kind of didn't want to just.
Can you see? But we could take this around and people can answer questions. Yeah, so answer that. Go ahead if somebody has an answer to the question. We're trying to bring another phone into the Hangouts that can move. This is a computer. The phone, so somebody can answer your question better. Are you in the conversation? All right. Well, anybody got an answer for what they think research is? Okay, Tia.
I would say that research could be the looking up and discovering of facts.
She said, can you hear her?
Yes, I heard it loud and clear. She said research is like looking up things and discovering facts. Yes, that's a great answer. So research is, I just want to be clear that research is something that is continuous. It's nonstop. People will say that, oh, I've researched this particular topic, or I did some, research in this area. Research is something that's continuous. It's nonstop. It's non-stopping. So that's why they call it research, because you do it again and again and again. So I define research as the continuous investigation on a particular topic or in a particular area. So it's the continuous investigation on or of a particular topic in an area. So research is something that you do again and again. A lot of people say, well, oh, I read an article on this, or I read a book on this. That's not research. All right. So when you say I researched something, you can't tell me that you did a thorough investigation on something and you read one book or you read one article. So research is something again and again and again, like you're sifting through information in order to learn about something. But the purpose of research is to extend human knowledge. So that is the purpose of research. So you're doing a continuous investigation on something in order to extend human knowledge. So that means you may come up with something new, or you may enhance something that already exists. So that's the purpose of research. And while you're doing research, we follow something called the scientific method, okay? So the scientific method is a procedure, okay? It's a procedure, it's a system that you use to test hypotheses. And so your hypothesis would be something that, something that you want to research. It might be a guess. So you may have made an observation, or you may have observed something. And out of that observation, you may have a question. So then that question would be a hypothesis, a guess, okay? And then you would have to go through a procedure to either confirm or negate that guess. And that procedure is what we call the scientific method. And that procedure consists of, observation, measuring some sort of variables, and experimenting with these variables. And then, doing some sort of testing and some testing and modification of your original hypothesis. So what I want to get across is that the scientific method is a procedure, okay, a system that you would employ to either approve or disprove your hypothesis. And your hypothesis would be your initial guess based on something you witnessed, observed, thought, heard. So it would be your guess. So that's what a hypothesis is. Now, a lot of people get a hypothesis or a guess confused with theory. They think, when people say, oh, this is a theory, when you say, oh, well, evolution is just a theory, they'll say, oh, it's just a theory. Or, when you hear the word theory, some people equate theory with a guess or with a hunch or with a hypothesis. Okay. A theory in science, okay, a theory in science is something that is a well substantiated explanation. Okay. So it's well supported. It's a fact almost. It's a well supported fact. It's not a guess. So when you hear words like theory in relation to science, it's not, we're talking about facts here. We're not talking about guesses and hunches. We're talking about something that is well supported and has been tested by detached researchers around the world. So when you hear things like this is a theory in science, we're saying that when we say a theory, we're saying that it's well substantiated, that this is a well substantiated explanation that has been confirmed by different scientists, detached scientists, through observation and experiment. So they confirm these things. All right. But when you think of a hypothesis is simply a guess. It's simply, it's kind of like, they say it's an educated guess, but it's a guess. It's a guess, and it's a proposed explanation based on, we would say, limited evidence. So that's what a hypothesis is. But a lot of people will get hypothesis and theory, they'll misconstrue them. When you hear theory, I don't want you to think that someone's just theorizing something and they haven't tested it. When you hear theory, I want you to know that they're giving you this theory or this statement or this proposal is something that has been tested and observed through various scientists. And so it's almost an accepted fact when we use theory in the science arena. Okay. So I want to show you guys my slide really fast. I'm going to share my screen with you all. And please let me know if you can see what I see.
Can you see it? I'm trying to get Tosh added so we got this on. Well, you know what? We could I'm in the live stream.
Can you guys see my screen?
You can join the live stream.
Brother Tori, can you see my screen?
Yeah, we can see it. I'm gonna have us join the live stream so the people in the back can see it. But you can go ahead and go. I'll be able to show this to them by the time you get to what you're saying.
Okay, cool. So I just wanted to establish those things. So research is the continuous investigation of or on a particular topic. That's what research is. And the purpose of research is to extend human knowledge. So that means that you're adding to the body of knowledge that already exists. So that means you're creating something new or something that already exists. You're enhancing that. And we began researching something with a hypothesis. So everything begins with this hypothesis, which is an educated guess. So I'm just rehashing right now, Brother Tori. So it's you begin with a hypothesis, which is a guess. And I wanted to talk about the difference between a hypothesis and a theory, because a lot of people misconstrue the two. They think that they're synonymous, and they're not. So a hypothesis is a guess based on limited evidence that you've collected. So it may have been something that you saw, something that you heard, and based on that, you have a question. So that begins your hypothesis, your guess, okay? But when you think about a scientific theory, then a theory is a well-supported, well-substantiated explanation that has been confirmed by other researchers through observation and experimentation. And then I want to go back and say that in order to prove or disprove your hypothesis, then you will follow what we call the scientific method, which is a system or procedure that you will use to either prove or disprove your hypothesis. Okay? So what you're looking at is a scientific method right now. So these are the steps of the scientific method. So you begin with a hypothesis. Now, I called it an educated guess, a hunch, but the formal definition of a hypothesis is a supposition or proposed explanation made on the basis of limited evidence as a starting point for further investigation, okay? So it's your starting point, and it's based on limited evidence. So it's just a guess, it's just a hunch. Then after you formulate this hunch or you have this question, then you undergo the scientific method, which would be first reviewing literature. We call it a literature review. Now I want, granted, if you go and Google the steps of a scientific method, they may use different words. They may say, instead of a review of literature or literature review, they may call it, research or background information. So my terms may differ from what you may see online, but we're still following the same line of thought, okay? Now, I just wanted to add that disclaimer because I don't know who might be Googling or whatever, but they may use different terms, but we're still following the same procedure. So now after you formulate your hypothesis, you conduct what's called a review of literature, So that means that you do a survey of scholarly articles. And I'm going to get into what's scholarly and what's not. So you survey scholarly articles, books, and other sources, okay, relevant to your area of interest. All right. So you go through and you find out, what are they saying? Okay, I have a question on, for example, the latest debate was, the latest argument was the Medjugorje ever deciphered? Was it properly deciphered? So then, of course, if you're doing a review of literature on that, then you will go through and see what other people are saying about the Medjugorje and how it was translated and if it was deciphered or not deciphered properly. So you review scholarly articles and books and other sources relevant to your area of interest. All right. So the purpose of this really is to offer an overview of significant literature published on that topic. So you're exploring the topic and you're going through to see what other people are saying about it and what the arguments are. So you do a review of literature pertaining to your hypothesis or your guess. Now then, after you conduct your review of literature, then you implement a research methodology. Now this particular step in the scientific method is very, very important because a faulty research methodology will result in a faulty conclusion. So you got to make sure that the process that the process by which you're proving and disproving your hypothesis is right and exact. Because if your steps are wrong or you made some error in your steps, and let me give an example of what an error could be. For my dissertation, and let me bring it up because I want to show you, my brothers and sisters, what I'm talking about. So let me go to my dissertation. Where is it? Okay. Where is it? I want to show you something. Okay, hold on one second. I'm trying to look for it. Okay, while we're going through it, let me show you some stuff. For my dissertation on Gaussian mixture models, I began with the hypothesis that models close together, models far apart, are better discriminators than models close together. So here's my hypothesis. I'm showing you what I hypothesized. So I began with something. I said the idea is that a set of Gaussian mixture models with large distances between class models should have better recognition performance than a set of Gaussian mixture models with small distances between class models. I don't expect you guys to know what Gaussian model mixtures are, but I want you to know that I just want to show you that when I did this, I began with a hypothesis. It's a guess. I didn't know whether it was true or whether it was false, but I had to implement the research methodology. And in doing so, hold on, I want to show you something. That is the system. I want to show you where you can have, you know, where you, if your methodology is flawed, how it could, okay, here we go. Okay. So for this research, I had to train models using test data. Now, had I trained these models and if I improperly trained the models, or if I use bad speech data, then all of my results for my dissertation would have been false. Everything would have been so for my dissertation, I began with the hypothesis, and my hypothesis was that I was using models to discriminate between languages. And so what I said was, well, okay, models far apart would be better discriminators than models close together. And in my research methodology, I had to train and test models. Well, if I improperly trained and tested these models, or something was wrong with my data, then I would have ended with a faulty conclusion. And that was the purpose of me bringing this up, just to show you guys that your research methodology has to be right and exact. And your research methodology is the process that you're going to implement to prove or disprove your hypothesis. Okay, so it's very, very, very important, because we got to remember that knowledge is only as good as the method by which it is obtained. So your research methodology, that means your step-by-step procedure that you're employing to prove or disprove your initial guess. It has to be correct. All right. So then after you come up with this procedure, then you collect evidence. You go out and you collect evidence, and your evidence could be interviews, observations, reviewing documents. You might have to, if you're a computer programmer, maybe you may have to write some code and generate some stuff. So then you go out and you collect your evidence. Now I didn't add these bullets to this particular slide, but after you collect your evidence, then you sit and you analyze your evidence. You analyze it, and then you draw your conclusions. So you collect your evidence, you draw conclusions, and then, you collect your evidence, you analyze it, and then you draw your conclusion. And you may conclude that your hypothesis is wrong. Maybe it's wrong, or maybe it's right. But this is the step. These are the steps that you take in order to prove or disprove your hypothesis. All right. So this is what we call the scientific method. Now, I would like to also show you guys this.
Still coming back.
What's going on?
Okay. Go on there now. I was just going to ask about that.
Yes.
That's the most important part.
Yes. Very, very, very important. So within the scientific method, we conduct a review of literature. And as I stated earlier, that this review of literature consists of doing a survey of scholarly resources. But a lot of people don't know what scholarly resources are. They believe that if you Google something and a website pops up, then that's scholarship, or because they see it on Wikipedia, that's scholarly. You know, we got to remember, well, what is scholarly? Scholarly resources are, and it says are referred to as academic, peer-reviewed, or refereed. All right. So they're either academic, peer-reviewed, or refereed. So what do you mean, Dr. Mayat, by peer-reviewed? Peer-reviewed means that somebody comes out with a paper. All right. Let's say that Dr. Mayat publishes a paper. Peer-reviewed would mean that, okay, I submit this paper to a conference, and this conference may have a board or a committee that reviews my paper, and they critique my paper to validate the content. So they're looking at the content, they're scrutinizing the content, and and these are people that are experts in my field. So that's why it's peer-reviewed. These are my peers that are looking at my work. They may come back to me and say, Dr. Mayat, you know, you were wrong, you know, in this particular section, or wrong on this idea. This is what you need to change, or, you know, so the peer review process is put in place to confirm, to validate the quality of a work. All right. So a lot of people stray away from peer review papers. They say, oh, well,
Okay, go ahead.
What'd you say, Brother Tory?
I was saying, go ahead. I thought someone had a question in the back.
Okay, cool. So a scholarly resource is something that has been peer reviewed, meaning that it was scrutinized by people in that particular area, that area. All right. So scholarly, they are written by experts in a particular field and serve to keep others interested in that field up to date on the most recent research findings and news. So during your review of literature, you have to survey scholarly articles. All right, scholarly articles, and this is considered scholarly. Here we go, and I can email you guys this table just so you'll have it, Brother Tory. Yeah, I can email this to you. So scholarly, what's considered scholarly? All right. So I'm looking at the first column, the purpose: to inform and report on original research. Notice it says original research or experimentation to the rest of the scholarly world. So that's the purpose of scholarly resources. So you're trying to inform and report on original research. So this is not second, third, and fourth hand information. This is primary research. All right. Primary, meaning that it's a first-hand testimony or direct evidence concerning a topic under investigation. So when we say that something is scholarly, we're saying that this person, whoever presented this information, is presenting first-hand original research. So this is not, oh, I read a book by so-and-so, and they read a book by so-and-so, and then they read a book by so-and-so, so we know it's true. No. Scholarly research. What did you say?
So if you have in your book, they're all secondary sources, things written and looked at by other people where they did the original research. If that person that wrote didn't do any original research themselves, considered scholarly. Like if they're writing about the pyramids on what they read about somebody that went there, scholarly.
I can't hear you. You're breaking up. You said if what, Brother Tory?
Saying if someone writes, say for instance, someone writes about the pyramids, on research, they're just basing it on things that other people did, books that other people wrote, where they actually went to the pyramids. Are you saying this, the person that wrote based on other people's writings, that's not scholarly?
Well, I hear what you're saying. You're saying that okay, so let me just make sure that I understand your question. You're saying that if I'm reading something and this person didn't do any original research, they're kind of quoting from people who did do the original research. You're saying, is that considered scholarly or not? Brother Tory, is that what you're asking?
My question.
Brother Tory.
Yeah, I'm here. That's my question.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't consider that primary or first-hand research. I would consider that just simply somebody regurgitating information from other people, like you said, who've actually gone over there. I wouldn't consider their work to be, first-hand research or something scholarly, in my opinion. I think that is just, a regurgitation of what someone else did. I consider work by, I know you're familiar with Anthony T. Browder. That brother is over there right now. He has a team of people excavating in Egypt. I think he has a budget of a few $1 million. Somebody's funding him right now, but Anthony T. Browder is over there actually digging up. I think they said that he found the tomb of like a Nubian king or something, like a Nubian the suit. And so that to me, like when I read his archaeological survey, that to me is scholarship. Well, that's scholarly. Now, if I read his archaeological survey and then I turn around and I don't know, reference it or whatever in my work, I may reference his stuff in my work, but then I'm supposed to, as a scholar, add to what this brother, you understand what I'm saying, brother Tory? It's kind of like you can't just quote and regurgitate other people's work, put it in your book and say that your book is scholarship. Now, I would consider your book scholarship if you reference other people's work or primary resources, but then you also added to the body of work. So now, okay, I go and talk about his work in my book, but then I also mention my work and how it's relevant to his work. And then my work is now peer reviewed and published. Then I would consider that scholarship, but I don't consider like people just pulling, a lot of people, the purpose of research again is to extend human knowledge. And what I see a lot of people doing in the community is just regurgitating a lot of things and not adding on to the body of knowledge that already exists. And so with Anthony T. Browder's work, when he publishes his archaeological survey, in my opinion, that is scholarship all the way. And I'm pretty sure when he does publish, he'll reference other people's work, but then he'll say, look, so-and-so, so-and-so, and so-and-so, they excavated and they found blah, 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 blah. Now I went over, I had a team of blah, 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 and I excavated and I did this. Now we're talking some scholarship. Now we're talking, somebody that added to the body of knowledge and extended human knowledge. You understand what I'm saying? I would consider that scholarship, but just, regurgitating things and all of that, people call it scholarship, but look what it says. The purpose of something scholarly is to inform and report on original research or experimentation to the rest of the scholarly world. So it's kind of like, it's cool to use primary resources and to quote other people's work, but then after that, what are you contributing to that body of knowledge? How are you extending what we already know? In academia, you never publish a book unless you have a new finding. It seems like today, a lot of people just publish book and it's just recycled information. But if we're just recycling information over and over and over again, then we're not extending human knowledge. So we're going to be stagnated at some point because we're not adding on to anything. It's just, I read this book, I read that book, I read 20 books, let me write a book. But in academia, you don't publish until you find something new. That's when you publish.
So just to be clear, you're saying, for example, if we were to do, I'm not gonna say if we were to write a book. If we read, let's say, Anthony Browder's book, since he's always over there. We read this brother's book, Dr. Kilimanjaro. If we read, if you wrote a book or Wardua assistants, they write a book and they did the first-hand research, right? If we were to do some type of lecture or workshop, their work and paying homage to them, the person actually disseminated the information is not considered scholarly.
If somebody did a workshop on like the books and stuff like that, I mean, it to me, I just feel like it's informing the people, is disseminating information, you're informing people, you're getting the word out. But I couldn't stand there and be like, oh, this is, my scholarship. You understand what I'm saying? I can present, Dr. Anthony T. Browder's work or whoever, but I just wouldn't call it, I wouldn't be saying that it's my scholarship. I don't think there's anything wrong with giving lectures and giving workshops on other people's information. I mean, we got to keep pumping out information and disseminating information. But, I don't see anything wrong with that. And then using scholarly resources, nothing's wrong with that. I would say that the resources, I kind of get what you're saying now. You're saying that if you conduct a workshop and you're regurgitating information from scholars, you're saying, would the workshop be considered scholarly? So I guess I would have to say yes, because you're using scholarly references, scholarly resources. So I would have to say yes, Brother Tory.
Okay, yeah, that was Brother Mino Kati.
That was me.
Okay, yeah, I would have to say that, brother, that it would be, if you're using scholarship from, the elders, then I would say, it would have to be scholarship, because it is scholarly, because you're using scholarly references.
I got one more question for you, sis.
All right.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but understanding, it sounds like what you were saying, whether something is a hypothesis and theory dealing with facts is your scientific method, correct?
Yeah.
My question is, that's not my question. My question though is, can a theory be debunked? And if so, then what separates the theory from a hypothesis if theory is dealing with facts, but then things get debunked? If theories can be debunked.
Now look, that's a beautiful question that you asked. You know, science always changes, and we say that all the time. I mean, you get new data every day. I mean, you look at technology changes. I remember they used to say that technology changed every 6 months a few years back, and now they say technology changes like every 30 days. So we constantly get new technology, and with new technology, we're able to collect data. And when we collect this data, we're able to change, you know, maybe something that was accepted as truth or fact. And a lot of people, when you think of truth and when you think of fact, we think of it so objectively. Like we think, oh, because you know, it was true today, it gotta always be true. Not necessarily. In science, it's a thing called upgrade. It always changes based on the information that we have at hand. So based on the information that we have at hand, it may be true today. But then, you know, if we collect new data. So for example, I published a dissertation in 2013. And 30 years from now, 40 years from now, someone might go back to my work and say, oh man, you know, she did think that models far apart perform better than models that are close together. And back then, her rationale was acceptable. But now in 2050, you know, we have new gadgets that can do A, B, and C. Does that mean that my dissertation was wrong that I wrote in 2013? Not at all. My dissertation was true and it was factual for that given period. But I want somebody to come along and update or tweak my stuff, you know, 40 years from now, 50 years from now. But that doesn't necessarily mean that that what I was doing was false or it was, you know, a farce. It just meant that at that given time with the data that I had, those conclusions were true. But maybe 20 or 30 years from now, somebody may come along and say, well, look, Dr. Mayat, you know, I read your dissertation, you know, back in 2013. And during that time, you know, you made this hypothesis and you proved it and it was signed off and you wrote nice papers on it. But I'm finding out that blah, blah, blah. So with science, you constantly upgrade. And so you say, well, can theories be debunked? Can you tell me a theory? Can you list a theory that has been debunked? Because when I think of theory, and we say that it's well supported, like they had, you know, when you think of the theory of gravity, gravity was just a theory years ago. But now we know that gravity exists. You know, back then, people kept saying, oh, the theory of gravity, oh, it's just a theory, it's just a theory. But scientists kept saying, nah, man, you know, we actually have experimented and observed. This is not just a, you know, this is a theory. This isn't just a hunch or a hypothesis. This is a theory. And now in 2016, we know that the theory of gravity is real. So we can't just say, oh, it's just a theory, it's just a guess. Back in the day, it was a theory of germs, right? People didn't see germs at that time. They couldn't see it. They couldn't observe it. But they were saying, well, how do you think viruses spread? How do you think? But we know in 2016 that germs really exist. So when we say theory, you say, well, can theories debunk? Can you please tell me or share with me a scientific theory that you know of that has been debunked? Because since I've been working in science, which has been since 1999, I don't know of any theories, scientific theories that have been substantiated by scientists around the world that are now debunked. I've never heard of it.
That's why I'm asking. So
are you saying there's no difference between theory and fact?
Basically.
I got one that you do.
Yeah.
And also too, because one thing I usually bring up with that, like when we talk about gravity, we know that in the past and all the time that has passed, we know that gravity, we don't know for sure what's going to happen tomorrow. our theory, the theory is that gravity may exist tomorrow, but you don't know that for sure until it happens. But based on all the evidence, to anticipate that it will, we can make that prediction. And every single time we test that theory, but we can't say we know for a fact, because we don't. You can never know that for a fact. You don't know what already has happened. What would you agree with that, Dr. Ma?
I mean, I would partially agree with that, because I would say, you say that it's just a theory, but when you test it over and over, no, you didn't say it's just a theory, but we know that it's a theory, and you're saying that when you test it, it happens over and over and over and over again. If it happens over and over and over again every time, I test it, then I'm going to say that it's a fact. You understand what I'm saying, Brother Tory? Like, yeah, can you hear me, Brother Tory?
I'm here.
Yeah, what I'm saying is, yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
I hear you.
So what I'm saying is, you said that if we test it over and over and over again, and we draw the same conclusions over and over and over again, then I'm going to stand on that and call it a fact, because I know the outcome at this point, because it's been tested. It happens over and over and over and over and over again. Like, I know right now I have a balcony. If I jump off that balcony, I know right now for a fact that I'm going to hit the floor. I know I'm going to hit the ground right now. And if I took my computer and I showed you guys me jumping off my balcony, there's not a doubt in my mind right now that I'm going to hit the ground. So this is not, this is not just a theory. This is a fact, because it's been tested over and over again. If I take any object in my house and I throw it up in the air, it's going to come down. So that's accepted as fact at some point. You understand what I'm saying? So when the sister just said, well, Dr. Mayat, are you looking at, so she's saying, well, you looking at theory and fact as synonymous? I would say, yes, sis. In science, that's what we're saying. We're saying that, yes, that this theory is that it's an explanation that is a well supported explanation. So you could say that it's factual at some point, because it keeps happening, over and over and over again. You're getting the same outcome over and over and over and over again. So after a while, you're going to say, look, I know that for a fact, because I keep running this experiment and I'm getting the same outcome. So after a while, you are going to take that theory as a fact, because you know what you're going to get at some point.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I would say, because they'll call it a law, like the law of gravity, but they won't, because you still call it the theory of gravity.
Right, they do still call it, right, but then like you said, they do call it the law, but people still say the theory of gravity. Mm-hmm. Some people say the theory or the law of gravity. Mm-hmm.
You don't know for sure tomorrow if gravity is going to be working. That's just that's based on what you think, based on all the evidence going so far. I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just saying, as far as semantics, that's why they call it the theory of gravity. When we say for a fact.
But we had to understand, right, I get what you're saying, King, but we got to understand that when you say theory, that is well substantiated, well supported, and it's been proven time and time again through observation and experimentation by detached researchers around the world. So after a while, we can't, after a while, like you said, it's not even just a theory, it's a law. So we know what's going to happen. You know what I mean? So you kind of can accept, to me, gravity as being factual, because you're saying, well, it's still considered a theory or a law, because you're saying you don't know, you say you can't say that it's factual. But what I'm saying is, if I go around my apartment right now and pick up different objects and throw them in the air, they're going to fall down. So after a while, when do you say, okay, this is a fact? It's been tested time and time and time and time again. It must be a fact. You keep saying you don't know for a fact. I do know for a fact that if I pick up one of my objects in the house, that it's going to fall down. I know that for a fact. So I don't, when you say a theory in science, you're saying that it's been well supported. You've seen it. It's been tested. It's been observed over and over and over again. So they're sort of synonymous.
I don't want to sidetrack me and let you go ahead and move on.
I would.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. But so scholarly, so the purpose is to inform and report on an original research or experimentation to the rest of the scholarly world. Now, what scholarly publications that have been peer reviewed? You can find publications in journals, scientific journals, or journals, people that publish in your particular area. I just don't want people to think that when you Google something, did you see, Tori, when we were on the debate, how the brother had pulled up a Photoshop image that he Googled real fast?
Who else saw that? But yeah, I did.
We all saw it.
Okay,
Yeah,
seen it. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
so it's kind of like, I mean, that was really a clear example that you just can't Google something and call it scholarship or call it factual because because you Googled it, So, scholarly articles will be, articles that it could be interviews, it could be books by people that have actually went out there and conducted the field research in whatever area that you're interested in. So we're looking at primary resources, people that were there, people that did the firsthand research or the field research in that particular area. So that's what we mean by scholarly resources and articles. A lot of times when you Google certain things, you may get a website that just simply gives you an opinion or somebody's thoughts on something, but that may not be correct. All right. So, what did you say, Brother Tori?
There's no guarantee.
Yeah, it's no guarantee.
There's no way to know.
Yeah, it's no way of knowing.
That their research methodology.
Exactly. And sometimes when I look at people's work, on the website, if you notice, Brother Tori, you might go to a website and they have all this information, but they don't even provide you like with a bibliography or nothing at the bottom, of the page. I actually looked at an article that was written in, I think it's called Clip Notes. I went to clipnotes.com and someone wrote an article on eukaryotic cells, the parts of eukaryotic and prokaryotic cells. And they had all this information. And so at the bottom of the page, I didn't see any references. So I emailed, it said contact us or whatever. So I contacted them and I was like, look, can you provide me with a bibliography? And they did. But the point that I'm trying to make is that when you go to these websites, you really never know what you're getting. So it's good to just do the research yourself and to follow the scientific method to prove or disprove whatever your guess or whatever your question is. And so an article could be, your scholarly articles could be graphs, charts, photographs that support your research, okay? It says right here, articles are lengthy and often structured into these sections: an abstract, a literature review, a methodology, results, conclusions, and bibliography. So for a lot of people that publish scholarly articles, they will provide you with a research methodology. I've looked at books, even a book by Asar Imhotep. I looked at his book where he laid out his research methodology. And sometimes when I'm reading a book and they show me their research methodology, if I don't agree with it, I don't even read the book. There's a book called The Warmth of Other Suns by Isabel Wilkerson. And she's talking about the Great Migration that took place in between 1915 and 1970, where Africans, where we moved out of the South and went up north and went west in the United States. In her book, Black Sister, I love her to death. She laid out her research methodology. How did she come up with the book? The book is like 600 pages. I read it and I thoroughly enjoyed it. But in her book, she laid out, I'm talking about, the Great Migration, and this is what I use to come up with this book. And she lays out her research methodology, in her book. So a lot of scholarly publications or books, they will give you what their research methodology is. I've read a lot of scientific journals, and at the end of the journal, after they lay out their experiments, after the conclusion section or reference section, they'll say, well, this was my research methodology. So you'll know that you're dealing with somebody who understands the scientific method, or you'll know that the scientific method was employed because you're reading something where they not only laid out, their hypothesis, their review of literature, their methodology, results, conclusion. Now they're telling you what methodology they use to derive at the conclusions that they're presenting you. So that's scholarly and that's scholarship.
So Dr. Mahat.
Yes.
When was the scientific method originated?
When we talk about the scientific method, because a lot of people will say stuff like, oh, methodology, that's a European invention. the white man came up with that. But we were doing that in Africa thousands and thousands of years ago. They just kind of, to me, I feel like they popularized our method. We were already observing. We were already experimenting. In fact, let me go here.
Yes, brother.
Let me go here. Let me go here. In the Rhine's Papyrus, in the first line of the Rhine's Papyrus, okay, which is a mathematical papyrus that was written. I don't even like to call it the Rhine's Papyrus. I would like to call it the Papyrus of Amos, because he was the scribe that wrote it, which they think that he wrote it, but it was the scribe Amos. But Amos wrote this papyrus, and this papyrus contains about 86 mathematical problems in the areas of algebra, geometry, and trig. Now, in the first line of the papyrus, he uses the word tep heseb. Tep heseb, the correct method. Tep heseb. Heseb is method. So they were utilizing methodology even then. It says the correct method of investigating nature to know all that exists, all mysteries and all things secret. So they were using methodology. They were doing that thousands of years ago. I think that this papyrus was written around 15 or 1600 BCE. So they were using methodology then. Methodology is just simply, coming up with a hypothesis, observing and experimenting with things and using methodology. And so they were doing this stuff thousands of years ago and wrote about method. In fact, in the papyrus, there's another papyrus, I forgot the name of it, where where the scribe was talking about schools. So we had schools, we had instruction, we had methodology. And a lot of the different papyri, you see that word heseb, tep heseb. So we're talking about correct methods that they were using to carry out their experimentations. I mean, I was looking at, I did a presentation online, I don't know if you brothers saw it, called The Evolution of Mathematics, when I was talking about how they possibly aligned the pyramids with different stars in the sky, how they used a method, they used a marquette. They used a marquette in a bay, which were surveying and sighting instrumentation. So they used methodology and they used tools to carry out experiments with. So when people talk about Europeans came up with the scientific method and all of that, that's a farce. We were doing that thousands of years ago. So I don't know if I answered your question.
So as far as the scientific methodology that you laid out, is there a time in the modern sense, or are you saying it's no different than the scientific methodology used in the time of our ancestors?
So you're saying, is there something in the Medjugorje that lays out these steps?
No, I'm saying, is there a difference in the sense? Is there a difference in the format of the scientific method as far as you laid out modern sense? Is there that, or are you saying it's no different going all the way back to in the scientific methodology during that time?
So you're saying that is it a replica, like what I'm showing you now? Is it a replica of what we did do back then? I don't think that it's a replica. I think that our brothers and sisters did have hypotheses, that they did formulate guesses based on certain things, and that they did experiment and observe, and they wrote documents and they built great things. And I think that these things have been definitely expounded upon. So I wouldn't say that what I presented today is a replica or an exact replica of what the ancients did back then, but I would say that the ancients definitely gave us a foundation to expound upon. I would say that.
Right. So somebody was asking to know too. We were just asking because we were trying to figure out the date. One of the things.
Definitely.
Or is it just like, because basically we want to go back, some of us, we want to go back and do our, our research.
Definitely. I hope that I was able to answer their questions.
But no,
we wanted to know if there's an exact date, like
this contemporary method.
You said is what an exact date?
Like the scientific method that you laid out for us to use, is there an exact and when that originated?
No, I wouldn't.
Like no different than like when Napoleon and them claimed to decipher the Medu from the Rosetta Stone. Is there a date in regards to when that scientific method that you laid out for us today came out?
I'm not sure when this was published. What I laid out for you today was the methodology that's common today that's being used to disprove and to prove and disprove hypotheses. But you're saying on a date, like when did the ancients lay out a method? We have mathematical papyri that go back to 1650 BCE. So we're talking.
Sorry. I didn't mean for that. It would have been good to know too, but I was asking for just the format that you laid out in terms of if there's a modern sense.
You're saying is there a date for when this procedure was actually employed, or when they, that's what I'm.
Today.
Yeah, I don't have a date. I don't have a date. That I don't know, but I know that we've always, even in Africa, we've always gone through some series of some form of methodology, and that they wrote about it thousands of years ago. So they did have a method. They did observe. They did observe. They did experiment with things. They wrote about it. I mean, I was reading. They have some medical. They call it the Carlston medical papyrus, where our ancestors were actually. They wrote about fixing and conducting surgery. Like we think that going to the hospital and surgery today is something new. These people, our ancestors, wrote about surgery. Performing different kinds of surgery on bones. On hearts, on all sorts of stuff, and what's called the Carlston, I think it's called the Carlston medical papyri. There's another, there are like several medical papyri where our ancestors even talked about birth control. Birth control isn't anything new today. So they were definitely, employing some form of observing and experimenting and methods to come up with some of the things that they were doing. As far as the modern scientific method, I'm not sure when that came about, but I know that we have documentation, going back thousands and thousands of years in Africa, where a lot of things that we're doing today, we were doing back then 3,000 and 4,000 years ago. But no, I don't have a specific date on the creation of the current scientific method, but I do know that that the same steps that I see in the scientific method that people are employing today, our ancestors did somewhat of the same thing or close to the same thing.
Okay. You guys are good?
Yeah. So when you evaluate, like, I just want to go back to these scholarly articles. When you're looking at these scholarly articles and you say, okay, this person calls it scholarship, look at the authors. This right here is criteria for evaluating sources. So look at who's authoring this work, who's publishing it, the audience intended, scrutinize the content, and like you say, find out the timeline. What was the date of the publication and the currency of the information? Is it crucial to your research? So this is the criteria, and I'm gonna email you this as well, Brother Tory. So this is like, a criteria that was put together for evaluating sources. Check out the authors, see who's publishing it. I do that a lot when I'm reading the book. I wanna know who's publishing the book. Sometimes, they'll say the book was published by Joe Blow, and so then I'm kind of hesitant on what I'm looking up because maybe this is not a credible publisher. I don't know. So definitely check out the authors, look at the publisher, and scrutinize the content. Again, most scholarly articles and books will have a methodology laid out for you. They'll tell you exactly what they did, what was the guess, what was their, what was the data. They'll explain the data. They'll explain their conclusions, and then they'll lay out their methodology and tell you exactly how they derived at their conclusion. So a lot of these, definitely look at the content of the articles and scrutinize it. So I'm going to email you this as well. And this is other stuff right here, additional tips for evaluating specific source types with books, articles, and web pages. And I always talk about these web pages. So, with web pages, You got to think about the domain of the web page, who's publishing this material, who's sponsoring this material, is there contact information? Like a lot of people throw up these web pages and the content is bogus. So you got to really be careful when you go to these web pages and then take in this information. So check out who's the domain, who's publishing the information. Do they have contact information? How recently was the page updated? You know, it says be particularly wary of bias when viewing web pages. Anyone can create a web page about any topic. You must verify the validity of the information. So be very, very careful, brothers and sisters, when you're going to these web pages and you're looking at these information. Again, not to throw him under the bus, but he pulled up an image that was Photoshopped and he didn't know. So we gotta be, wary when we're leery when we're looking at these websites.
Right.
Let me get out of here. Let me show you guys something else too. Let me show you this. So even, I just want to show you guys this. Hold on 1 second. I think it was in chapter 3. Okay. So can you still see my screen, Brother Tori? Brother Tori, can you see my screen?
No, we can see it.
Research methodology?
Yes. So I just wanted to show you guys that when you do lay out something that's scholarly, you have to include your research methodology. You had to lay out step by step. So you had to talk about your research challenges. What were your challenges and what are the limitations to what you're doing? So you had to lay out your steps, step by step. What did you do to derive at your conclusions? How did you derive at your conclusions? So when you're reading scholarly articles, you should be able to defend. See, I laid out a whole chart of what, this is my step-by-step, the step-by-step process that I use to come to my conclusion. And so this is very, very important because, again, a faulty research methodology will always result in a faulty conclusion. So when you're reading different articles, whether it's in science, whether it's in whatever, always make sure that they have a research methodology. So they're telling you, they come up with these conclusions, but you want to know as a reader, well, how did you come up with that? Otherwise, it's bogus. How did you come up with these conclusions? What did you do? So hopefully, if it's scholarly, that person should have laid it out in their book, in an article, or on a website. Look, this is my information. These are my conclusions, and this is how I derived at my conclusion. So research methodology is very, 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 very important. And I just wanted to show you guys that even me, within my dissertation, I had to defend my research. I'm sorry, my battery is low. I had to defend my research methodology. So how do I stop sharing? I don't know what I'm doing. Let me go back. Okay. So can you see me, Brother Tori and family?
We see you.
Okay, cool. So do you have any more questions? Because you brothers asked some good questions. Like I really love the question on, can theories be debunked? Because a lot of people say that. They'll say stuff like, well, if the theory is considered factual, then how can you debunk it? Because they believe that once it's true, it's always true. But in science, we don't say that if it's true today, it'll always be true. So in science, I think that I guess you could look at truth as being subjective, even though we believe that truth is objective. So once it's true, it's always true. Well, it may be true for this day and time with given the information or the data that we have available. But 20 years from now, hold on, let me get my battery. Hold on one sec, Brother Tori.
Yeah.
All right. I'm sorry, Brother Tori. I thought it was charged up. But what I was saying is that was a very, very good question that he asked, because a lot of people will say that, well, if it's true, 20 years from now, how can we go back and say that now, it's not true? So then people will say, well, it wasn't a fact, so he made a very, very good point when he said that. But we got to remember in science, What did you say, Brother Tory?
I was just going to say that now people will take what you're saying. The key part of what you're saying is that you have to have a method to which you came to that conclusion. So you can't just say, even if something is wrong because the science gets updated, to somebody that just does something with no methodology and says, well, I believe this is true just like you believe that's true. But you had a solid way to your conclusion. You know what I mean? I just wanted to add that.
Say it again, Brother Tory, because it was like a little choppy.
I was putting out there that we can't compare a full research methodology, pull something out the sky and says, look, I believe this. That's two totally different things. Even if your dissertation is updated, that doesn't mean we had to go through a process. But I wanted to ask you a question. Mm-hmm. Because somebody will say, that's a theory, but Dr. Mahat, science. So you're going with the white man's science. Some white man told you that something is true, but you don't know that for sure. So when you say you have to say step for step in your dissertation what you did, any stranger could go around, because I talked about replicating your research. Any stranger can do that for himself, or
Brother, you sound so. It's like it's really choppy right now. So it's kind of like I couldn't really understand your question. It sounds like really choppy. Like I see you, and then it's kind of like very, very choppy. But it sounded like you had a really good question. You were saying, can you repeat that to me?
All right. Can you hear me?
Yes, I hear you.
So yeah, basically I was going to say, people will say, because a lot of times in the community, people, well, that's the white man's study. You're coming to me with what the white man did. He's giving it to you. It's true. But when you talk about you have to go through everything you have to live step. Random person in India or China somewhere, or anywhere, Alaska, replicate your study.
Facts. What you just said is facts. So you do lay out.
Talk about that because if someone does an experiment, so a Christian might do something, and China might do it. Like redo the same study, and it should be the same, right?
Right. If you laid out a methodology, if you laid out a research methodology, and then somebody goes back and they follow the exact same procedure that you did, they should derive at the same conclusions. If they don't, then your methodology is flawed, or you're lying, or you're being dishonest. See, the scientific method forces people to be honest, because, if you're telling me that you conducted an experiment with this data, let's say that you have a data set, and you telling me, Dr. Mayat, I experimented with this data set, and I came up with these conclusions, and this was my methodology. I should be able to take your methodology and, like you said, replicate what you did and get the same conclusions. If I do not, that means you did something wrong or you're lying. So see, what the scientific method allows us to do is to hold people accountable for the conclusions that they make. It's like a system of accountability. You understand what I'm saying, King?
Right. No, exactly. So we can falsify your theory. We always have the option of falsifying it by testing it ourselves.
Exactly.
Even if it's the white man, we can go and replicate the study for ourselves objectively.
Exactly. So even if he went out and did it and he conducted that experiment in his labs, we should be able to follow that methodology that he laid out and conduct it in our labs, and then we can know for ourselves whether or not it was right and exact. And if it's not, then we know that he did something wrong or he lied. So the scientific method allows it, it makes people be honest. It's like a system of accountability in a sense.
So since I have a question, I got a couple, but this question this reference to who must not be named in this recording, but for people who are well intentioned but at the same time may not have all their facts straight, and they want to teach and disseminate information to their communities in an effort to, elevate consciousness or play a part in the liberation of our people in the Black community. Would you consider that to be dangerous when you don't have your facts straight?
Yes. Yes.
Because there's some people, as you already know, that don't see a problem with giving people the wrong information if the heart is in the right place. So I just was wondering if you could speak to that.
No, I think that that's very dangerous. Anytime that you misinform people, I think that that's dangerous, especially with the condition that we're in right now, brother. With the condition of our people, it's very, very, very dangerous to misinform, in my opinion, Black people. We've been misinformed since we stepped foot on this daggone continent. So we don't need people coming to us and further and misforming us even more than we've already been misformed, in my opinion. So I think that it's very dangerous for people to stand in front of our men, women, and children and disseminate misinformation and disinformation. And then I have to ask the question this. Sometimes when these brothers and sisters misinform us, I always ask the question, is this purpose? Like, are you purposely doing this? Because right now I see a lot of brothers and sisters, like the level of consciousness is just, it's raising right now. And so when people come into our community and they start disseminating misinformation and disinformation, I start asking myself, is this intentional? Like, you have some people who know the stuff that they're disseminating. They know that it's wrong. And I'm not going to call people names. They know that it's wrong. And then they stand in front of people anyway. And they present it like it's...
I'm sorry, no, we're talking to kids. Go ahead, though. Go ahead, sister.
Yeah, what I was saying is they disseminate this stuff as if it's factual. So then I had to ask myself, is this being purposely done? Because right now we are a broken people, and we don't need people coming into our community misinforming our men, women, and children. Period.
How do we combat that when they are doing that? Like, when they're misinforming, what's the best way to deal with that type of situation?
I think the best way to deal with that is forcing them to be silent, to silence them. And the community has the power to silence them. Like, for example, the young brother, he made a very derogatory video, I heard, about me, and the brothers are dealing with that right now. But what I tell people is this, sis. I tell them, stop clicking on the videos. Like, stop booking these people for shows and lectures. Stop clicking on the videos and giving them views. Stop sharing their misinformation on the internet, because as long as we continue to circulate their information, to view their videos, to book them for lectures, we won't silence them. And so I believe that the best method of getting rid of that misinformation and disinformation is silencing these brothers and sisters, silencing them, right, and giving them a voice in our community. That means not booking them for shows. That means not clicking on their videos for views and not sharing their videos.
Okay.
Okay. This is more of a personal question, because I don't know everybody's position. I know everybody's coming from different backgrounds and things like that in the Amara squad, but this is a personal question from my own personal development. When it comes to African systems, our cultural value systems, in our spiritual system, your perspective, profession, the importance of or whether you think it's important to reconnect with those traditions. whether it be Voodoo, Yoruba, Akan, etc. Or do you find it that it's not necessary as long as you have some type of understanding of who you are in regards to where you come from?
I think that is both. I think that we definitely should reconnect to our African our African traditions. And a matter of fact, like I'm in the process of right now of trying to learn about Yoruba, trying to learn about Ifa, and really trying to get back. I think that that's very important that we do reconnect. And I always say that we should reconnect because a lot of us have a European worldview. And we view the world through European lenses, whether we want to believe it or not, we do. And I always say that in order to extricate ourselves from European culture, we have to get back to self. And getting back to self would mean reconnecting with our indigenous cultures. Now we got to remember that Africa has a plurality of cultures. You know, you got cultures in West Africa, West Africa, East Africa, North and South and Central Africa. So with that said, I always tell folks that I believe that in order to extricate ourselves from European culture, we definitely need to reconnect, like you say, with the indigenous cultures. And maybe you as an individual will pick an indigenous culture that is conducive to your mental and physical well-being, So I don't know, maybe I feel comfortable learning about Yoruba. I can feel comfortable learning about Ifa. Then you have brothers and sisters who want to learn about the Kemetic culture. But I think that as long as we connect with some culture in Africa, that would help to extricate ourselves from the European mindset that we have here in America.
In regards to what you just said, as far as some who choose to go the route of investigating Kemet, right? Because I'm all for that as well. You know what I'm saying? And I'm on my journey in those regards as well. I'm also, initiated into a few things. And the thing that always comes to mind is, even though that we know the culture of Kemet is very profound. When we look at the fact that, like cultures like, the Yoruba, Vodun, and Kisi in the Congo, etc. When we look at those cultures as like a living culture where you can go to and still under the priests and the elders and the kingships, on one level or another, and gain access to that knowledge from the perspective of that cultural paradigm. But then when it comes to us investigating and trying to reconnect with, Kemetic, I know some of the people in the Amaran Squad don't want us to use the term Kemetic, but for today, trying to reproduce a Kemetic spiritual system, and then keeping in mind everything that you said about our scientific methodology, but also understanding that we don't have all the answers in regards to the culture was function, nor is there a significant or awareness of a living, purely Kemetic society today. What is your view in regards to initiating into the cultures that are existing right now, though they carry the remnants of Kemetic culture, versus trying to reproduce a Kemetic culture without, as far as my limited understanding, there being a pure Kemetic culture today?
Well, you do have, and you're right. You're saying, should we connect? You're asking me if I would recommend reconnecting with cultures. So we're talking about West African cultures, right? You said where you still see vestiges or still have vestiges of Kemetic culture, right? So which one would make more sense? Trying to reconnect with Kemetic culture versus the West African cultures, which also have vestiges of Kemetic culture. That's your question, right, brother?
Right. There's nothing wrong with doing both. I agree with going both routes. But as far as if you had to choose one or the other, because there's a lot of people that I've come across who there's nothing wrong, all respect to those people, but there's people that I come across who seem to have an issue with pursuing West African tradition, or it can be East African indigenous tradition, no matter any part of indigenous African spirituality and culture. You know, it's all good, but there are people who will, you know, kind of brush that off. It's not purely Kemetic, as though they may have somehow come across a purely Kemetic source, when the majority of...
Yeah, I would have an issue with that. I would have an issue with that, because I would charge everybody to... I went to Rick Kittles and got my DNA done. They traced my mitochondrial DNA back to Cameroon and Bamileke. So my mother...
They have voodoo in Cameroon.
Yeah, and so look, and so my mother's mtDNA goes back to the Bamileke people of Cameroon. And so it would be crazy for me not to, and I guarantee you, if a lot of us if a lot of brothers trace their Y chromosome, I guarantee you that a lot of it is L3, and it probably goes back to some West African man. A lot of us come from West Africa. So I would definitely have a problem with people who have an issue with brothers and sisters who want to connect with West African cultures. Like, that's crazy. I do believe that you do have brothers and sisters who kind of romanticize Kemet. I'm not one of those people. I just believe that I'm an African, and I try to learn about all of the indigenous cultures. You know, I'm gonna die or transition trying to learn about all of the indigenous cultures on that continent. But you're right. There are some brothers and sisters who will say, well, I'm just gonna study Kemetic culture. And it's kind of like they I don't want to say give the finger, but they don't want to learn about the West African culture. So they're like, screw Eva or Ifa or whatever, and they run to Kemet. But ironically, the funny part is most of us are sub-Saharan Africans, and most of us came right of West Africa. So if I had to place a priority on anything, I want to learn about Cameroonian traditions and cultures. So now that I know exactly where I come from, you know, I want to learn about that. So yeah, I think that it's shameful that you have brothers and sisters who don't see the same thing, knowing that most of us came out of West Africa. Most of us were beach babies anyway. So I think that's kind of shameful. But I do love that we're learning about Kemet. You got brothers like Anthony T. Browder who are over there, you know, doing his thing. You had a lot of African scholars over there, you know, doing excavations and trying to dig up things and trying to bring more information to us, you know, in regards to Kemet. Because I remember reading some of Diop's work and some of Diop's work and even Dr. John Henry Clark's work. And they were saying that, you know, Kemet is to Africa as Greece is to Europe, you know, and as Rome is to Europe, you know. So, you know, I applaud the brothers and sisters for trying to learn about, you know, Kemet. But, you know, I tell people fast, you know, I tell them I'm a West African at heart. That's who I come from. That's who I identify with.
So some of us want to know, I appreciate your response. Well said. Some of us want to know, because you kind of flew by us real quick. Who was the company that you went to in regards to getting your DNA testing?
African Ancestry, brother Rick Kittles.
Okay. Right. Okay.
Yeah, brother Rick Kittles, and I'm in the process of I traced my mother's maternal lineage, so I'm going to get my uncle to give them some DNA to trace my mother's paternal lineage. And then I'm going to do my father's side. So I want to know like all of the branches that are inside of me. And so that's what I'm in the process of doing. But it, you know, it costs money. I'm trying.
I was hoping something else. But some people got to save up for that one. But it's definitely on my to-do list.
Yeah, I had to save up. The first time I did it was almost 2 years ago. So I'm looking to do another one this year. So I want to get it done 4 times to learn, you know, 4 different branches, and then 4 branches. So my mother's maternal, paternal, and then my father's maternal and paternal. So you know, once I figure that out, I'll know what send me. But yeah, I went to brother Rick Kittles.
How much did it cost?
It's like almost $400.
It was $275.
You got $275?
Yeah, I paid $275.
You got a discount or something, huh?
That's what they paid. That's what it was, $275. But I got it done 2 years ago.
Right. I looked it up recently. It was about an extra $100 and some change.
You know what's crazy? Because everybody's doing it. And so you know how that goes, supply and demand. So everybody's doing it now. So they oh man, so they up their prices $100.
Yeah, last time I seen it was like 3 something.
Wow. Yeah, it was $275. Yeah, it was $275 when I did it.
Yeah, it's like you don't need like 6 something to do your mother's side and your father's side.
Goodness gracious. Goodness gracious. But yeah, that's what I went through. And then I heard there's another website called 23andMe or something like that.
Yeah, 23andMe.
Yeah, but I haven't but I didn't go through them, but I heard that they're much cheaper than African Ancestry.
Yeah, I heard that they're all of them actually I've heard gotten better references as opposed to just going to like Ancestry.com. Just African Ancestry is more expensive. But yeah, I've heard good things. Those are the main two that I hear about, African Ancestry and 23andMe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, me too. Those are the ones.
So I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. You were gonna say
no, go ahead. I can hear you loud and clear now.
So you kind of already answered my question, but I just want to, in terms of getting straight to the point, from a different angle, like when it comes to, you know how we talk about people who try to look, for lack of a better term, conscious. They try to look the part instead of actually trying to, be the part and develop their quality and things like that, right? So in those same regards, when we have brothers and sisters in the struggle, regardless of whether they're doing good work or not, but find content or comfort in where they are, as opposed to making an effort to reconnect with the application of our indigenous systems. What is your take on that? My take on that personally is it's kind of difficult to talk about gaining knowledge itself and applying that and allowing what we know to reflect in our behavior if we don't take the time to adopt the African paradigm from the perspective of our culture and not of our colonizers. I still see it like, even though through scholarship, which is there's a lot of good work being done through scholarship. And we do have that European connection, but in terms of adopting the paradigm of our ancestors and the cultural body systems from the perspective and from the foundation of our ancestors, as opposed to going to a colonial education system to learn about us, it seems like there's a disconnect when it comes to actually seeking the liberation of our people, gaining that knowledge and stuff, and actually applying it. Some people are comfortable. I guess some people are comfortable and like, I guess, cherry picking, for lack of a better term. Cherry picking what aspects of our colonizers to hold on to, as opposed to trying to get rid of it all, altogether. Like, almost like we forgot that we were kidnapped and disconnected from our homeland. And instead of trying to find our way back home, we just try to find ways to be more comfortable. You know what I'm saying? Where we are now. So what's your take on that?
So you feel like, again, brother, it seems to me that you feel like people are on the fence right now. It's kind of like people are learning about the culture. I'm just saying that's kind of what I'm hearing you say. Like, okay, we're out here learning about the culture and we're trying to apply it, but then you still have people that kind of want to hold on to different aspects of. You're saying what you see is this hurdle that we got to get over. You're saying that we're learning about it, we're trying to apply it, we're trying to return back home, but you do still have people who would like to hold on to aspects of our colonizers or our oppressors' culture. And what I say to that, brother, is you are 100% correct in your assessment on our people. It's just a condition that we're in. And I think that, it took them, what, 400 or 500 years, it took centuries for them to program us and get us, to this mental state that we're in. And I think, brother, that it's going to take just as much time to get us back, for us to return back home. I think a lot of us are waking up, and a lot of us are returning to our indigenous cultures and tongues, and we're learning about self. And then a lot of us are teaching our children. We're taking our children out of the public school systems. A lot of us are homeschooling. I just built with about 3 or 4 sisters last week. One woman is homeschooling 5 children. Another woman, I think she's in California, she's homeschooling 4 children. So they're like sisters and brothers that are definitely pulling their children out of the public school system and teaching our children and giving them knowledge of self. You got Ed Anime Productions. We're on the scene. Our cartoon is going around the world right now. And I have parents who call me up, and say thank you. They're teaching their children. They're using Meltrek as one of the tools to teach their children knowledge of self. But I think it took us hundreds and hundreds of years to condition us. And I think that it's going to take that plus more years to get us back home, to get us back to Africa, to get our mindset back to Africa. So I see what you're saying, and you're right in your assessment that you do have people straddling the fence. But I think that's because of the condition that we're in. And I feel like the system of racism and white supremacy have definitely done a number on us. And I think that just like it took hundreds of years to get us to where we are now, and it's going to take, generation after generation to get us back to where we once were. So we're going to see that. We're going to see a lot of that. You got a lot of people who just don't want to wake up right now. I know brothers that, they rock dashikis, and then you look down at them and they got on Jordans, or brothers that are they'll rock. Yeah, I see brothers rocking Ankhs, and then they got a Jesus piece next to the Ankh. And I'm like, wow, or I see sisters that are screaming Black Power, but then, you look at their family dynamic and they got a white dude at the house, I see a lot of that. I see sisters screaming Black Power and they got tracks glued all over their heads. I just think that's, look at him, look at him. But I just think that we're going to see that for a while until we completely extricate ourselves from this European mindset. We're going to see the people that don't want to wake up. I remember I was actually building with my cousin last night. We went out for a celebration, and she was her son, my little cousin, which would be her son. I've been teaching him, and he's like 18, 19. So he goes back to her and he's like, Ma, I'm not trying to do pork anymore. I'm not trying to do beef. I want a natural Black woman. So he's coming at her. And and then he even told her he wants his name is Alex, but he told her, Ma, I want you to call me Ujambo, because he was like that. I don't want that name anymore. I don't want Alex's anymore. I want Ujambo. So she was fighting him on that. And last night when I saw her, she said, Cuzzo, I got to apologize to you. She said, I was one of your biggest critics. She said, and I opposed your teachings simply because I wasn't ready to wake up. So there are a lot of us that just aren't ready to wake up. And so they're holding on to the oppressor. They're running and buying Gucci and Michael Kors and Versace shoes. I mean, they're holding on to the oppressor because they just don't want to wake up. So I think for a while, we're going to be seeing those people who are straddling the fence, for quite some time until we totally extricate ourselves from a European mindset.
All right, so can you hear me?
Yes, I can. You can.
My laptop is about to die, but final thoughts on the topic that you wanted to say before we close out, because it's freezing up. I just wanted to thank you too for coming and joining us. We appreciate it. We got some good information today.
Oh man!
Oh yeah.
Well, I appreciate you guys inviting me and allowing me to speak to your family, because at the end of the day, this is your family, and family is very, very important in African culture. Family is very important, so I allow you to. I thank you for just even allowing me the opportunity to speak, to build with you guys, to talk to your family. I think that it was a wonderful exchange. You guys had wonderful questions. Even though, Brother Tori, I feel like you already had the answers to your questions, but you brothers had wonderful, wonderful questions. So I thank you for bringing me on and allowing me to share my perspective on research methodology, theory, versus hypothesis. And, I thank you for that. And I just want to employ everyone. I want to beseech everyone to seek knowledge for self. You know, don't just accept, you know, don't just accept the information that people are giving out. You know, I just see that there is a lot of misinformation and disinformation permeating the community, because you got people who are just lazy. We call them lazy thinkers. You got people who want the quick answers to complex problems. They want the fast solutions and the easy stuff. Think. I always tell people to think. Do your own investigation. Do your own due diligence. Don't just accept what people say as being factual. You know, these brothers in the community are saying a whole lot of bull crap. I mean, you had no diss, but you got brothers going around telling women that they can shoot sperm through the Bartholin gland. You got, you know, brothers, he's funny, but you got brothers, you know, around here, you know, just saying foolishness. And then you have people that are believing this foolishness. So I just charge everybody to just think, to think, to think, to think, to think, do your own investigation, question everything that anybody brings in front of you. You know, ask them, yo, what is your methodology? How did you come up with these conclusions? Have you done your own personal research? Have you done your own experimentation? Or are you just regurgitating that something that someone said or did? What are you contributing to this body of information? What have you done personally? So, you know, I just challenge everybody. I just challenge everybody to do their own investigation, to do their own self-study, and to not be lazy thinkers.
All right, well, peaceful. We don't want to hold you all day, sister. You got any GJ? Got any questions, man? We had our brother GJ come in. He's a member of the club too. Yeah.
No, I don't got no questions. I just wasn't able to make the book club, and I wanted to catch what I could before y'all ended.
Definitely. No other questions?
Anybody want to say anything?
No statements? Anybody want to introduce themselves? Say nothing? All right.
Thank you for the information.
No problem, sis.
And for viewing the scientific method, and just, you know, reminding us that it's important to make sure that there's resources cited when we are doing our own research. So
Definitely, sis. Thank you so much, sis.
Hey, y'all, I just want to say thank you for taking the time too, sis. You have some really good things to say. I appreciate you taking time, and we have a radio show out here, and hopefully we can get you on and do an interview with you on the station as well.
Definitely. I will be on it, brother. I will be on it. Just let me know when and where. Just let me know when and where, brother, and I'm there.
Yeah. Go ahead, brother. I see you, GJ. Dr. Mott.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I just wanted to introduce myself and make sure you got my name.
Yeah, we know your name is Minohati.
Yes, sir. I got it, King.
Yeah, I just wanted to be sure.
I got it, King. I got your name and I see your face.
All right.
All righty.
All right. Well, I appreciate it, Dr. Mott.
No problem. You brothers, just take care.
Oh yes, because they just send me that information. I'll talk to you in a minute.
All right. And don't forget, I'm going to send you the PDFs that I showed on the screen. I'm going to send those to you through Facebook. All right.
Okay, thanks. I'll share them with the group.
All righty. Peace.
Like people, you know, like